In the middle of the Thar Desert, an entire civilization of over 1,500 people, along with 83 surrounding villages, vanished in a single night. This is Kuldhara, an abandoned village in Rajasthan that has remained completely devoid of human life for 2 centuries. In 1825, the inhabitants walked away from fully functional homes and untouched streets, leaving behind a silence that has never been broken. That sudden disappearance cemented Kuldhara's reputation as one of India's most notoriously haunted locations, drawing paranormal investigators to probe the stillness of the ruins. Local folklore points to a specific culprit, Salim Singh, the powerful and ruthless Diwan of Jaisalmer. The stories describe an impossible demand. Singh reportedly wanted the village chief's daughter in marriage, threatening the community with violence and crippling taxes if they refused to comply. Faced with this ultimatum, the villagers chose unity. They packed what they could and escaped in the dead of night to protect their honor. As they fled, they allegedly laid a curse upon the land, declaring that the soil would be barren and that anyone who tried to settle here would face ruin. While these ghost stories dominate the local legacy, modern historians and geologists evaluate the ruins differently, treating the site as a forensic puzzle defined by structural evidence and climate records. The people who lived here were the Paliwal Brahmins, a community renowned for their intellect and extreme prosperity. They built a flourishing society that survived for 500 years in one of the most unforgiving wastelands on Earth. This diagram shows their survival mechanism, the Kadin rainwater harvesting system. By engineering these embankments, they mastered the art of trapping the rare, erratic monsoon runoff, directing it to saturate the soil beneath the surface. This trapped subsurface moisture created highly fertile ground. It allowed them to grow crops right through the dry winter months. A civilization capable of engineering a permanent oasis in a wasteland would not abandon the infrastructure keeping them alive without a massive systemic shock. In 2017, a geological study proposed that this shock was a violent natural disaster rather than a curse. Geologists identified physical evidence in the ruins: collapsed roofs, fallen lintels, and shattered stone pillars that resemble destruction in known seismic zones. The architecture of Kuldhara relied on dry masonry, stacking heavy sandstone without mortar. This made the structures incredibly sensitive to ground movement. The study concluded that a massive earthquake flattened the town, causing mass casualties and triggering a panic-driven exodus. However, historians have identified a conflict in the data. The only major recorded earthquake in this region occurred in 1819, 6 years before the documented 1825 migration. These conflicting timelines suggest the physical damage within the ruins was caused by something other than a single seismic event. The alignment of the remaining walls challenges the earthquake theory. Seismic shearing would have likely tilted or cracked these straight parallel foundations. The missing roofs likely to have a more mundane origin. Over decades, neighboring villagers scavenged the valuable, pest-resistant timber beams from the empty houses, causing the heavy stone slabs to naturally cave in. British census data from the 19th century provides a record that contradicts the myth of an overnight disappearance. The records show a gradual population decline, dropping from 800 citizens in 1815 down to just 37 by 1890. The true cause of the exodus was likely a combination of factors. Decades of severe drought eventually exhausted the Kadin systems, a crisis that was exacerbated by Salim Singh's extortionate taxes. The abandonment was a slow, systemic collapse, where an entire society was squeezed by both ecological and political pressure. The Paliwals faced a choice with no good outcome: stay and face starvation as the climate shifted, or abandon their 500-year-old ancestral home. Without the Paliwals' highly specific engineering and constant maintenance, the desert ecosystem quickly reclaimed the land. It became practically uninhabitable for anyone else, giving the impression of a curse. Human beings often invent supernatural narratives because a sudden, dramatic monster is easier to visualize than the slow, unstoppable failure of a society's life support systems. This tragic story of climate migration and political pressure successfully mutated into a legend, preserving the memory of the Paliwals' trauma long after their systems failed. The desolation of Kuldhara connects directly to modern anxieties about shifting climate patterns, prolonged droughts, and depleting aquifers. The crumbling ruins stand as a silent, sun-baked warning for modern civilization. If a civilization of master engineers can be erased by a changing climate and drying wells, it raises a difficult question about what happens to us when the water finally runs out.